Hey, it's a beautiful day in Atlanta, Georgia, and that's a pro tip for you. The beginning of October is some of the best weather all year round. In this video, I'm going to be talking with you about what the pros and cons of living in Atlanta, Georgia are. And we're getting after it right now. Hey everyone, welcome back to Living in Atlanta. It's a beautiful day here in Georgia, and I'm in one of my favorite parks in the whole city, Grant Park. That's another pro tip for you. So you already got two pro tips. You know that the beginning of October in Atlanta is the best weather all year round, and now you know about Grant Park, which is one of my favorite parks, and I've actually done a full vlog tour of Grant Park, so make sure you check that out. If this is your first time checking out my channel, welcome. Basically, this channel is all about what it's like to live in Atlanta. I talk about the different neighborhoods, I talk about the cost of living, basically everything you would want to know if you happen to be relocating or moving here. I got you covered. My name's Marc Brenner. I'm a realtor here in Atlanta, and my team and I, the Living in Atlanta team, that's all we do is help people relocate here from out of state. We want to be a resource for folks who don't know anything about Atlanta or Georgia. So anytime you want to call us, please do. That's why we're here. We can talk about what kind of neighborhood you might want to look in, what the house buying process is like. It doesn't matter. Reach out to us day or night. We love connecting with folks who find us on YouTube. All right, so today we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of living in Atlanta. Now, full disclosure, I have done a video like this before. It was a long time ago and the quality wasn't so great, so I wanted to do this again in a beautiful setting, I might add. I got some good light actually, but we're in Grant Park, which I absolutely love, and we're going to be talking about what the pros and cons of living in Atlanta are. You've probably heard me say some of them before, but I'm doing it more vlog style this time, a little bit more casual, and hopefully you get a sense of if Georgia and Atlanta is the right place for you to be moving. So let's get into this. What are the pros and cons of living in Atlanta, Georgia? So we're going to start with cons because I want to end on a positive note. So the first con I have of living in Atlanta are bugs. Now, bugs are everywhere. Obviously, if you live in more of a colder climate, you may be dealing with them less, but really there's two bugs that I want to talk about that are really an issue you're going to have to learn to live with if you're going to live in Georgia, and those are mosquitoes and cockroaches. So the mosquitoes are really bad here. Obviously, we're in a very warm climate, and if they like you, which they like me, they will get you in the summertime, especially if you live near a very wooded area, which obviously most of Atlanta is a very wooded area, but they can get pretty bad. From anywhere between March to even now, October, it's still very warm out. The mosquitoes are going to be out, so you're going to need to own bug spray or have your lawn treated. You're going to want to make sure there's no standing water around your house. So it's just a part of life. You need bug spray, and you're going to get bit quite a bit here. Now, the other one is cockroaches, which gross a lot of people out. They gross me out. A lot of people think if you have cockroaches in your home, you have a dirty home, which sometimes I suppose can be the case. But basically, if you own a home in Georgia, you're going to see cockroaches from time to time. They like to call them palmetto bugs sometimes to be fancy. Is all cockroaches, and they're gross, and they will get in your house because they're very prevalent down here in the South. Again, warmer climate, so it doesn't matter if your house is well sealed, if it's the most clean, spotless house in the entire state, you're going to occasionally see a cockroach in the home, crawling around your deck, on your siding. Now again, there's things you can do to mitigate this, keeping your gutters clean, keeping lots of foliage away from your house, keeping brush and branches away from your house, but it's going to happen from time to time. Pro tip on this, gel bait. If you go to Home Depot, Combat X Gel is actually really good. I get that. I always stay stocked up on that, and multiple times a year I'll put the Combat X Gel around my house, and I still see cockroaches from time to time, but they're always dead, which is obviously preferred. All right, so for pros, the first one I have is weather. The weather here really is amazing. It's grown on me every year. I've been here about 11 years. I didn't like the weather when I got down here. I'm from New York originally. I liked colder winters, but it grows on me every year. I swear my blood gets a little thinner every year. It's a really nice mild climate. Is it LA? No, I talked about this in my Los Angeles versus Atlanta video. It's not sunny and 70, 365 days a year, but Man, it's gorgeous out so often in Atlanta. It's sunny a lot of the time, and I mean, it's October 11th. It's about 76, 77 degrees. There's a nice breeze, so it's just a very mild climate. You get obviously long, hot, muggy summers, but the spring and fall are absolutely exceptional. They're longer seasons. They're just very mild, you know, anywhere between 60 and 80 degrees. If there's a nice breeze, obviously that's a big benefit, but your winters are short. It does get cold. It gets rainy and cold. You don't deal with a lot of snow. It gets below freezing a few days out of the year, but the winters are short and it gets warm again very quickly. Yes, June, July, August can be brutal, but a lot of people really love the hot weather. Now, on a whole, I think this is a huge pro for living in Atlanta. It's just a very mild climate. You really get the best of both worlds because you do get the change of seasons. You have 4 distinct seasons here, but none of them are super intense like you see in the Northeast, except for summer, of course. So you get a nice blend, the change of seasons. Honestly, fall and spring alone make the weather in Atlanta well worth the move. All right, for the next con, I have pollen and allergies in general. And if you're thinking about reasons why you wouldn't want to move here, this actually could be one of them. If you're severely allergic to pollen or some type of other tree or grass allergen, it gets pretty bad in Atlanta. You know, we hold all kinds of records when it comes to all-time high pollen counts. You know, every time March or April rolls around, you're going to walk outside your door and your car is going to be covered in yellow soot, which is pollen. That will continue to come back for a few weeks. That's just part of living in Atlanta. The pollen count gets really high here. The ragweed gets really high here. So, you know, if you're a person who's really sensitive to seasonal allergies, Atlanta could be a challenge for you. A lot of my friends who are more sensitive to those tree allergens, they take Claritin every single day. And it really, you don't get a reprieve until it gets much colder. So, you know, thinking closer to November. All right, so for my next pro, I have written down nature. The nature in Georgia and Atlanta is absolutely spectacular. It's one of my favorite things about living here, hands down. If you're a nature person, you are gonna find everything you need living in Georgia. You have all the benefits of living in a big city, but you're also super close to so much amazing nature that you would never know is close to a city. You know, if you like to hike, camp, climb mountains, if you like to get in rivers or boulder climb. You know, the only thing we really don't have is a great place to ski or snowboard. Obviously, we don't get much snow here, but other than that, there's everything you could want. So some pro tips for you guys looking at great nature activities. Stone Mountain is a great walk. Arabia Mountain is one of my favorite places to hike. I'm into kayaking personally, so I love the rivers. We've got the Tallulah River Gorge. We've got the Cartacay River. I like to go up north. It's only a 2-hour drive to Tennessee, so I go to the Ocoee River and kayak all the time. You're only an hour and a half to Alabama to the southwest, and there's great rivers and nature things to do towards that way. So, and even inside the city, you get a great nature feel. We're known as a city in a forest. Obviously, there's tons of beautiful parks like Grant Park, the one I'm in now. So the nature in Georgia is just fantastic. You can go up to North Georgia and go pumpkin picking and apple picking this time of year. There's the Blue Ridge Mountains up to the north and the Smokies and the Appalachian Trail. There's an unlimited amount of nature-related activities to do here in Georgia. So if you're an outdoor enthusiast, you will be in your glory here. All right, for my next con, I have the restaurant scene. Now, I might catch some flack for this. I talked about it in my LA versus Atlanta video, but I really think the restaurant scene here is lacking. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Now, let me be clear. There are a lot of great high-end restaurants in Atlanta. There's Staple House and JCT Kitchen, and there used to be Bacchanalia. You can get high-end dining in Atlanta that's on par with other major cities. It's that middle-of-the-road restaurant scene that I really think is lacking. There are way too many restaurants in Atlanta. This is Atlanta's thing. This is what restaurateurs do here in Atlanta. They buy a beautiful space. It's beautiful to look at. It's a great atmosphere. And then they just put out a menu where there's always a $15, $16 hamburger. The beer, even if it's local for some reason, is like $8 or $9. And the service is usually pretty bad. I'm just going to be honest. That's been my experience. You know, no disrespect to anyone in the restaurant industry in Atlanta, but having lived in many major cities, New York, Baltimore, New Haven, I just think it's kind of lacking here. I would love to see more middle of the road, you know, providing great value style restaurants in Atlanta where you feel like, you know, you're getting a good deal, the food is good, you know, maybe it's not the flashiest place to be in or the most aesthetically pleasing, but you get good food at a decent price. There's only one place you get that in Atlanta, and I'll tell you my super secret thing, that's the only thing redeeming the Atlanta food scene for me, and that's Buford Highway. I'm gonna do a whole video on Buford Highway because that's how much I love it. In fact, I always tell my wife the next place we're gonna own a home has got to be near Buford Highway. I'm a huge Asian food junkie. There's tons of great authentic Asian food and Mexican food on Buford Highway, and it's at great prices. So that's just more my speed, that's just more my style. Maybe I'm too critical or particular, but I get really frustrated with all these new restaurants that pop up in Atlanta that offer a $16 hamburger and expensive beer, and you get terrible customer service. Like, they don't even say hi to you when you walk in. So again, maybe it's anecdotal. That's my experience. The middle of the road restaurants in Atlanta where you get good value, pretty lacking. All right, for my next pro, I have things to do. Now, maybe this is common sense. I mean, it is a major city. You would expect there to be lots of things to do, but there really is a lot to do in Atlanta, you know, not only within the city, but if you take into account the nature, which I was just talking about, you should never run out of things to do. I mean, you know, although I was just criticizing the restaurant scene here, you know, whether you want to go to a nice restaurant, bar, you know, if you're into clubbing and the late night scene, obviously you've got all that in Atlanta. You know, if you want more low-key nature experience, I just explained you have that. I'm in a park right now just reading and doing some vlogging. So, you know, all of that's available to you. You know, you really can have the full city experience that you could in most major cities. But the difference is you can have the full suburban and rural experience if that's more what you're into. You know, there are some great suburbs all around Atlanta that I talk about all the time. So if you're into more family-focused activities, those are all available to you. If you want to get out deep into nature, if you want to go hunting, if you want to go camping, if you want to go kayaking or rock climbing, all those things are available to you as well. So I really can't think of a single thing you can't do. I would say go to the beach, but you can even go to the beach in Georgia. There's Tybee Island, which is only about 265 miles from Atlanta, but you can do that if you want to take a little trip to the beach. It's available for you as well. So you really shouldn't ever run out of things to do. And there's a lot of stuff that you may not even know about, like the Georgia Guidestones, which are really cool to check out and read about the history there. We even have vineyards in Georgia, if you didn't know about that. North Georgia is wine country, believe it or not. And there's some decent wines, beautiful vineyards up there. Love to go up there, especially in the fall time. You can go pumpkin and apple picking, but there are some fantastic vineyards in North Georgia with breathtaking views and good wine. You can get a cabin up there. So there's a lot of other experiences that you might not expect that you can enjoy in Georgia as well. All right, for my next con, I have traffic. Nothing new here, right? You know, if you know anything about Atlanta, you know the traffic's bad here. The traffic's bad in every city, honestly. It is really bad in Atlanta. Not as bad as LA, not as bad as Washington, D.C., but you're going to be spending a good bit of your time in traffic. Because of the way Atlanta is built out, you get a lot of bottlenecking, and the downtown connector, 75, 85, you know, our public transportation's not good, so everyone is in a car, and there are tons of accidents. I always say the traffic in Atlanta is not too bad as long as there's not an accident, but there's always an accident. So now you can get strategic with it. I am lucky enough to kind of set my own schedule, so I don't go near the downtown connector from 4 on. And with COVID, obviously things have calmed down quite a bit. It's been kind of crazy how much little traffic there has been. It's been really nice, and it's going to be a rude awakening. The rude awakening is actually happening right now with the traffic starting to ramp back up. But all that to say, you can get strategic, you can avoid certain areas at certain times. And then there's things you're not going to be able to avoid. You're going to get stuck behind a major traffic jam on 285. 285 apparently is the deadliest highway in the country. People drive very fast down here. If you're not doing at least 85 in the left lane, you need to get out of the way because people will get mad at you. So the traffic sucks here. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That's just what it is. You kind of have to own a car, which I'm going to talk more about later, but our public transportation's not great. Everyone's in a car. There are a lot of bottlenecks and a lot of construction projects going on, so you're going to be getting frustrated from time to time with traffic. All right, so for my next pro, it could be number one. I have it as number two, but it's the cost of living. I talk about it all the time, but it's really true. I've said in so many videos, I can't think of another city the size of Atlanta where you can purchase a home at these price points so close to great neighborhoods and so close to downtown Atlanta. I mean, you're talking about, you know, I've done videos with budgets of $150,000 where you can be within 25 minutes of downtown Atlanta in a perfectly move-in ready home. $150,000 doesn't even get you a studio anywhere close to New York or LA or one of those Chicago bigger cities. So obviously we've got a lot of growing to do, and the home values here, you know, when I talk about cost of living, you know, the cost to go out is pretty much the same. The cost of a gallon of gas, the cost of a candy bar, that stuff's not going to be drastically different. When I talk about the cost of living, I'm talking about the cost of affordable housing and rent, because I think even the rental rates here are much more competitive than they are in many similar cities. But I'm talking about the cost of affordable housing. I mean, you know, I've talked about some of the best suburbs in Georgia. With a budget of $350,000 or less, you can have a beautiful home in the best suburbs in Georgia, which are close to Atlanta, have great schools, plenty of things to do, are safe areas, and the values are growing there. So even your $1 million home is going to look like an $8 million home in Chicago or New York, and your $500,000 home here is going to look like $1 million home in many other cities. So there's just a lot of tremendous value, especially if you know where to look. Now, some areas are starting to get a little overpriced. Obviously, you have areas where the prices are highest in and around Atlanta, but if you know some of these up-and-coming neighborhoods, which I've actually done a video on my favorite up-and-coming neighborhoods, there's a lot of value here. I mean, just to give you an example, not many people talk about Fairburn, Georgia. Fairburn, Georgia is about 25 minutes southwest of Atlanta. You can buy a new construction home there right now for under $200,000. D.R. Horton, which is one of the biggest home builders in the country, they offer products there, 160, 170, 180, beautiful new construction homes, and you're less than a half hour from Atlanta. So if you know the areas that are up and coming and where the value is, even more so, your dollar will go really far. All right, for my final con of living in Atlanta, I have sprawl / public transportation. Again, I talk about this all the time. If you don't know already, we are not a dense city. We are not a highly walkable city. You should not be thinking New York or even LA or even Washington, D.C. You need to own a car in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, yes, we do have some public transportation. We even have some heavy rail, but if you look up the MARTA heavy rail, it makes a small cross in the middle of the city. And that's it. You know, you don't have different routes going on all over the place like you do in New York, where you can get from A to B to Z quickly. If you're not on that cross section for the heavy rail, then you have to drive to the station, you know, and a lot of people do that, and that's the way they commute. But overall, the overwhelming majority of people who live here will need to own a car. There's a robust bus system, but the public transportation here is really lacking. You know, really, with a city of this size, with all the people moving here, we need a subway system. We need a lot more heavy rail. We don't have that right now. Now, luckily, the Beltline has helped this a little bit, but the Beltline isn't. The Beltline is a fantastic amenity. Everyone knows I love the Beltline. It's not a permanent solution to all our public transportation problems. It's a great move in the right direction and a great use of otherwise wasted space, but our public transportation is sorely lacking, and we're not very dense. So you do have walkable neighborhoods. Inman Park is walkable. You know, there's areas in Midtown that are walkable. There's areas in Edgewood and Kirkwood that are walkable, but it's not like, again, New York, where you can walk from, you know, you can walk blocks and blocks from one neighborhood to another neighborhood, and you'll find a new neighborhood you've never found before. You need to explore a neighborhood here and then hop in your car, drive to another neighborhood, and then explore that neighborhood. And that's why the Beltline has been good, is because it allows you to walk from one neighborhood to another, but again, that's only in the Beltline loop. So we are sprawled out, not highly walkable. You need to own a car, and that's part of the reason why the traffic here is so terrible. We're not a very bike-friendly city. I probably should have added that as its own con, but it's pretty scary to ride your bike in Atlanta, I'll be honest with you. We're just now getting some more bike lanes installed, but motorists are not used to bikers being around. It's not like Portland, where there's bikers' rights and it's more ingrained in the culture. It's dangerous to ride a bike in Atlanta. So you're going to be spending your time in a big hunk of metal all day, and you're going to be spending a lot of time in traffic. And to me, that is the biggest con of living in Atlanta. I mean, if this city had better public transportation and was more walkable, it would really be incomparable to me. So there's some challenges we have to work through, and unfortunately, they're very difficult because the city is at odds with the surrounding suburbs in getting on the same page for public transportation. Basically, the suburbs don't want to fund the city because they think, you know, negative foot traffic is going to make the way out into the suburbs, but that's a different topic for a different time. So yeah, number one con of living in Atlanta is basically it's traffic, sprawl, and public transportation wrapped up into one. So just be aware of that. All right, I got one more pro for you and then I'll stop talking, but really the number one pro, why should you move to Atlanta, Georgia? It's opportunity. There really is an incredible amount of opportunity in Atlanta. And I don't mean that in like an esoteric way. I mean it literally. There are a lot of big employers looking for people to work for their companies here. We have, last time I checked, at least 22 companies in the Fortune 1000 that are headquartered in Atlanta, and we have at least 16 Fortune 500 companies that are headquartered in Atlanta. So big companies that employ thousands of people that would be great places to start your career. You know, we're talking Delta, Home Depot, Chick-fil-A, Porsche, UPS, the list goes on, and we have been rated by many publications as the best place to start a career. And it's not just that there are a lot of big companies, it's the diversity. You have a lot of cities that depend on one industry in a lot of cases, right? So maybe it's shipping or it's medical. Well, there's a lot of diversity in our job market. We have a very robust medical industry here. So if you're a nurse or a doctor or some kind of practitioner, there's tons of opportunity in that field. The film industry has absolutely exploded here. We actually make more major productions than LA, if you can believe it, at this point. So there's great opportunities if you're in the film industry here. I mean, everything. We're a huge hub for logistics. We're a huge hub for IT and technology. We're a huge hub for shipping. So Atlanta really is not a one-trick pony. And I've said this before, and I don't know how to really convey it, but you really feel like you're not a small fish in a big pond in Atlanta. It feels like a manageable city. It feels like, you know, you can kind of get a handle on things and work your way up, make connections with people, you know, find out what kind of company you want to work for, and really work your way up. I mean, things are going to continue to grow in Atlanta, so there's going to be continual opportunity. So in terms of starting a career, in terms of leveling up in your current career, you know, you have a ton of opportunity to do that in Atlanta. And again, keep in mind, we're talking about all these great companies and great jobs are available. Well, keep in mind your dollar is going to go a lot further here. So really the biggest pro of living in Atlanta is twofold. It's two main things. It's the opportunity, the diversity of the economy that creates a lot of opportunity for people starting or continuing their career. And then it's the cost of living, you know, the cost of affordable housing. If you can get a great job that pays well, your dollar goes further. That's a very powerful combination to be able to have a secure, well-paying job, and then to be able to use that money to buy yourself a beautiful home in a good area that will increase in value over time. I mean, that's essentially the American dream, right? So that really is possible in Atlanta in a big way, and in a way that I don't see in a lot of other major cities. So that's probably my biggest pro of living here. So that's it, guys. Those are my pros and cons of living in Atlanta. You know, I really try to put myself in the mindset of someone moving here. Why would they move here? Why wouldn't they move here? Why wouldn't you move to Atlanta? I can't think of a good reason. I mean, unless you're a person who doesn't like the hot, muggy climate, who's really sensitive to pollen and hates cockroaches and doesn't have their driver's license, well, okay, then maybe Atlanta's not the city for you. But if I think, you know, why would I want to move to Atlanta? I mean, there are just so many fantastic reasons. The weather is beautiful, the cost of living is low, the job opportunities abound. I know, again, I'm biased, big surprise, right? But I think this is a fantastic city to live in. I think it will exceed your expectations if you do move here. So yeah, those are my pros and cons of living in Atlanta. Again, my name's Mark, and you know, my team and I are here for you. If you want to talk about your process of moving to Atlanta, you know, you have no idea where to start, you want to talk about neighborhoods, or you want to talk about the best schools, give us a call. That's what we're here for. That's all we do, is help people relocate here from out of town. So make sure you subscribe. I put out multiple videos a week, and I'm going to continue to do that. So please support us. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. Watch my other videos. I got a ton of great content out there. Comment below if there's a topic you want to see me talk about. And other than that, I'll see you next time.